Hello everybody and welcome to my first tutorial ever that I record. Um, I'm happy to have you here. I'm kind of nervous because I never spoke about how I do a drawing. I'm recording my voice now afterwards after I finished the illustration of Naruto and Hinata. And yeah, I'm pretty excited. So where do I begin? First of all, you will see when I do the outlines here. No, first of all, I'm from Germany, and I'm very sorry if my pronunciation is somehow weird. I try my very best to speak clear and in English. And this program you see here, it's called Procreate, and it's for the iPad Pro 2018 that I use. I have that version. And this program here during the outlines is in German. But later, when I started coloring, I found out how to switch it into English. So it's easier for you to understand what I'm actually doing. But I will, even with the outlines, I will explain as good as I can. So I choose Naruto and Hinata to do as my first tutorial. I love the movie The Last, and I hope you can recognize the kissing scene. And I was like, what happens after the kissing scene actually? And this is how I made the sketch. Usually I don't make such nice sketches, but I thought because this is my first tutorial, I was like, okay, we want to start with something fancy. And so I made the sketch more clean, so to say. There's another one, you will see it in the VIP, the work in process pictures that I post. I have to remember that the V in German is the W. I actually mean the WIP. So now that's right. So for these outlines, I hope you could see that I had a sketch in the beginning, and what I did then, I hope you know what layers are. So every picture I do is with layers, and before Procreate I worked with Adobe Photoshop. It was using layers as well. Without layers I would be lost. Imagine that you put many foils on top of each other, and you can delete any of them. You will see that when I open the layers again, it's the two squares on the right top. That's the layer button of Procreate, and my sketch is on the bottom. It's the bottom layer. Now you can see it. And what I did, I reduced the opacity, oh my god, my English, the opacity of that, so that I can paint with black on top of that. And for the outlines, the black lines that I draw now, I choose the calligraphy pen. I hope that's called that way in English as well. It's the nicest one for me. I don't use many brushes in Procreate. I use three in total, I think. I use the calligraphy brush for the outlines, of course the eraser. Actually in Procreate you don't necessarily need the eraser. When you make a mistake, you can also tap with 2 fingers on the screen, and then the last thing you did, it will be undone. But apart from that, you can use the eraser, and for the eraser you have the same variety of brushes that you have for drawing. So the brushes that I use, this one now is the calligraphy brush. Then there is a, I don't know how it is called, I have to admit, but later when I do the coloration we will see it, because I use it for the coloration. It's a simple round brush. It's not airbrush, because the other one is the airbrush, the last one. No, actually I use 4 brushes, I just realized. For the outlines I use the calligraphy brush and the monoline brush, but that one will be later. And for the coloration I use a hard brush and then an airbrush. Yeah, that's basically it. But now for the outlines, you see that I don't stay on one layer with that. I add other layers just to be sure that when I make a mistake that I can delete it afterwards. I don't want to mix the outlines I do for Hinata now with the ones I do for Naruto, because if I do a mistake, or let's say you can see that they will overlap soon, like Naruto's ear is too far into Hinata's nose, so later on when I drew the Hinata's nose I will delete the hair and the ear of Naruto, and I can do that because it's on another layer. Of course I could do that on the same layer as well, but it's easier if it's different layers. So because I like to be safe, I put different layers even with the outlines. And yeah, that's what I'm doing. Just along with the sketch, I draw the outlines now, and I think I will speed it up the video now until we reach the next step, so you don't fall asleep. Okay, let's continue with the next step. I hope you saw I chose the monoline. The monoline is a brush that has always the same thickness, and that's what I needed for the moon. And if you draw a circle on Procreate and it's not the circle, like as mine was not a circle, it becomes smooth automatically. You just need to hold it. So draw a circle and then hold, and it will form like a miracle together. And then I use the transform tool to make it more like a circle. It's much more easier to create a circle in Photoshop, but that's the only option that I found. And now I continue with the monoline because it's always the same thickness, and I create with that additional outlines of the bodies that I draw. I do that to visually more separate the foreground from the background, because when I leave it like that, the outlines of the characters are, in my opinion, too thin. Like that's the style that I have, that I always draw big outlines, like thick outlines, for the outer parts of the characters. Now I kind of finished with the thick outlines, and what I do now is I take the calligraphy brush, so the brush I previously did the outlines with, and what I do scale it higher. I scale it higher. I make the brush that I draw with thicker. This is the eraser, but you will see in a moment. Yes, on the right side you can see like the upper scale is like the size of my brush, and the lower one is the opacity of my brush. I put the opacity always on the highest, and with the size of the brush I vary. Like when I did the outlines previously, it was lower, the brush was smaller, and now I use quite a big brush. It has more levels of pressure. So what I do now is I thicken some of the outlines to make them more clear for the eye. I cannot explain why I do it. When I studied, I had a fellow student who told me to try it, and ever since I tried it, I like my pictures much better. So it became kind of my style to spend a lot of time with outlines. I mean, I would be finished usually, but I do the thick outlines of the characters, and now I do another thick outlines. There's no particular reason, but only that it's the style I use, and I hope that makes any sense for you. I do see a difference with that, like with the second round of outlines that I do now. I can separate Hinata more from Naruto, for example. for the eye of the viewer. And that's what I try to do now. And also with the folds in the clothing, I don't know how to call that in English, I hope it's the right word, I can make the picture more interesting, I have the feeling, and that's why I do that. And the calligraphy brush is perfect for that, I think. The next thing is one of my favorite things to do. I duplicate the outline layer and then I do the Gaussian blur. I think that's the word in English. We will see it again later. I just did that. I choose it on the like the button that looks like a wand, and I choose the Gaussian blur, and then you see now I try again. I do it at 6%. Then I have the blurred outlines. What I do then, you will see it in a moment. I go to layers again and I reduce the upper layer to 30%, the one with the blur, and then I have that nice effect of smooth outlines. I like that very much, and I think I will do it with the moon as well. No, not yet. So what I do now is I chose the for coloring heart the hard round brush, and now I do color the characters in red, because that's one layer that I will have. It's the character layer, the flat colors of the characters, Naruto and Hinata. I choose red because later on I can see that better when I use the eraser. When I use a very light color, I tend to miss some things that I want to erase. If I use a dark color, I miss some things either because it's too similar to the dark outlines. So red is a nice color. I use that almost every time I roughly paint the characters. And now I take the eraser. I chose the calligraphy brush for erasing again because it has pressure. If I use the monoline eraser, I couldn't erase the sharp things because the monoline will not reduce the pressure, if that makes any sense. The pressure is always the same. With the calligraphy brush I have variety, and pressure I can do, and erasing is more easily for me. So that's what I will do now. Okay, then I did the red parts, and now I did like lock the layer of the red color. I put another layer and choose create a clipping mask. So this way I can only paint on top of the red colors that I just did. I just took the big airbrush, I think you saw it, and then I painted over it with skin color, and I only painted the parts that I just painted red because I put the layer on lock and then clipping mask, so it's only possible to paint over the red parts. I hope that you know a little about layers already and that makes sense for you. If not, play the video in slow and I think you will be able to see what I mean. So what I did as the next, I created another clipping mask. I work a lot with clipping mask. I will do that for each color now. I think Naruto has a slightly darker skin tone than Hinata, and that's why now I created another clipping mask for his skin color. This is not the one I will choose. It's just I can see that one better, so the hand is still missing. And then I can go to the color settings. You remember the wand on the top left, the one that is sparkling. I will use that in a moment, you will see it, and then I choose the hue and saturation option, and so I can vary the color of the layer I'm working on. And the current layer I'm working on is Naruto's skin color. So now, see, this is my layers, that's Naruto's skin color. Okay, I don't choose the wand. Yes, I did choose the wand, but I also reduced the opacity of Naruto's skin color. That's another option you can do to vary the colors. Deckkraft means opacity. As I said, in the next step, this one will be in English. I hope it's much better to understand for you. If you have any questions on that you don't get right now, any questions, please feel free to ask me. I want to do this for you so you can learn how I create my pictures. So any layer you work on, you can vary the colors separately. Like if I have Naruto's skin color on a separate layer, it doesn't influence Hinata's skin color. So on top of that, now I build another layer with Hinata's blush, and I put that layer mode on multiply. That means that I can see the skin color through. You can play with the layer options a lot. There's so much to play around with that it's actually fun, and you will see all layer options have other effects. That's why I love to use layers so much. But in general, for the flat colors, most of the time I use the normal mode of the layers. Here I adjust the color of Naruto's eyes again. Yes, that layer is on normal mode because I want to have it full opacity. Yeah, I merged the colors now together, like Hinata's blush, Naruto's eyes, the skin colors. It's on one layer now. To do that in Procreate, you can take 2 fingers and make a movement to merge them together, or you can swipe it to the right side, the layer to the right side, and then you can choose the merge down option. So the next color layer is Hinata's hair. It's on normal mode again. First of all, I paint it in red again, roughly. Then I take the eraser. I told you I choose red because I can see it better when I'm erasing. Oh my god, I don't know how to pronounce that in English. When I use the eraser, and so I will move the parts of Hinata's hair. You can see I use a lot of undo. I just tap with 2 fingers. That's the quickest way. I love that about Procreate. That's why I like Procreate better than Photoshop, because I have the finger gestures. I can turn around my picture with 2 fingers. I can zoom in with 2 fingers. I can undo with 2 fingers. I can merge with 2 fingers. Everything works with finger gestures. That's why maybe you don't get everything, because I cannot screen record my fingers. That might be a little problem. But apart from that, I can recommend Procreate very much. I had never expected that it would be so good. I only purchased Procreate because at the time when I got my iPad, the Adobe Photoshop was not available for iPad, so I purchased Procreate for 11 euros, and it was like the best investment ever. And I only paid it once. It's not monthly. It was once, and I got an amazing program, as you can see, I hope. Yeah, now I changed Hinata's red hair to her actual hair color, and yeah, that's how I do it with the following colors as well. Just deleting little mistakes here, and I will see you back when I finish the flat colors. Okay, for some reason the last parts of the flat colors, they were not recorded. I don't know why. I'm very sorry for that. The good news that I have is that the program is now in English. I hope you can read now everything, even a change to layer. And yeah, I think the tools and gadgets as well, yeah, I can see it's in English now. So what I do as soon as I have the flat colors, you see I added the background as well, like kind of how I want it. I created another clipping mask, like I did it previously before with the flat colors, another clipping mask, but this time it's not on normal, no, it's on multiply. I choose a gray brush, as you can see on the right top, that's the color I currently use, and I paint some smooth with an airbrush, that's the smooth brush that I use. I painted the first shadows and reduced the opacity now to 70% because it was too dark, I thought. And now I create another clipping mask layer with the stronger shadows, smooth as well. And I'm pretty sure I will reduce the opacity again this time because it's pretty dark. That's how I do the first part of shadows, and I do it for all the colors at once. Like many years ago I used to do it for each color separately, but now I do it all at the same time, and now at 70% again, and you can see the difference now. There is another layer now. I choose white and I do the lights, and I do that smoothly as well. I do it at the borders because I'm not an expert in light. I think you can see that in many of my drawings that I don't care so much about light. My style is pretty unrealistic in light, I even think. But that's kind of how my style works. With the moon, I'm pretty sure that the light should be at the borders of the characters. And now I play again with the layer options. I think I put it on overlap color or something like that. In German it's ineinander kopieren, color Dutch or something like that. You will find the right option, or if you play the video small, I think you will be able to see. I by the way, I duplicated my flats in case I make any mistake, because this one is different than Photoshop. There is not the number of infinite layers. I think I have 17 for this picture because I painted in a high resolution. So at a computer, Photoshop is actually more, it's better in terms of layers and keeping the layers, because here I have to merge everything if I want to adjust colors for all the layers at once and stuff like that. So play with the layer options and you will find the right shade of light. Now I choose the same brush as I did for the outlines. I do the heart shadows now. I choose the calligraphy brush again, and I choose the same color for the shadows again, and I set it on multiply. So what I do now, I take my outlines as an orientation, like you see now on the cheek. It's not always it doesn't make sense so much because the strokes on Naruto's cheeks, they don't throw any shadows, I think, but I do it because it's how my style works. It's not logical, so I might not be the best person to learn from, but if you have interest how I work, that's how I just orientate on the outlines I spend so much time to draw. And yeah, that's basically it. I now will choose the most logical, not really logical, but the parts of the pictures that are the most appealing for shallows for me, I try to do them inside, so not on the moon side where the lights are. And yeah, I hope that somehow this way a nice picture will come out eventually, and I will continue when I finish this part. Okay, I'm done with the hard shadows now, and what I do now, I increase the brightness to 70%, about 70%. I do the alpha lock on, I lock that layer so I can only paint on the shadow parts I did, and I use the dark shadow color again. So I have a little variety in shadows. I use a smooth brush and I paint over the shadows that I just did in a slightly darker color. So I have some bright shadows and I have some darker shadows. I think it's a little thing, but for me it makes kind of a big difference. I think it's more interesting to watch the picture like that. Once I'm done with that, I create a mask on my layer, and then I choose the black color and an airbrush to paint over the shadows. This way I remove shadows in a smooth way. It's not like, it's kind of an eraser to say, but because it's a mask, I can undo that. So I can delete the mask and I still have all the shadows that I painted. I don't lose the shadows that I just did when I use a mask instead of an eraser. So with the black, I paint over the shadows that I just did, and the black erases the shadows because it's a mask. I hope that makes any sense for you. Because I don't know how to explain the mask. Maybe I can do that in the next tutorial, or I can do a separate tutorial on that. Once you understand it, it's pretty easy. Just use the mask option and choose a black color. And if I use white instead of the black, I can make the shadows reappear. Yeah, and that's what I do before the next step, which is adding the hard lights. I think I will do that in a moment. Not yet. I hope you can see what I mean. The black color, it removes the shadows. Nothing else, but only the shadows, because I'm on that layer. And now I create the next layer for the lights. No, I remove. Okay, first I reduce the opacity. And now I choose the hard brush again. And I create the lights. The lights are not realistic either. I try to do them like the moon is here. This one I put on top of the outlines because I want to have a little glow in Naruto's eyes. So this is over the black lines. Only that way I can paint over it. Because the layer on the top, it will paint over everything. If the layer is below the outlines, I cannot paint over them. This one is below the outlines and it's on top of the flat colors, and it's on top of the shadows. So I can paint over that. It's the light layer. And what I try to do is make it realistic to the moon glow. So I will mostly have the lights on the outside. I also do the little highlights you can see in the headband already. I like to place these little highlight dots, I think on the cheeks as well in a moment, because I always do it on the cheeks. Not yet, first the hair. Yeah, I'm basically doing what I did with the shadows, just the other way around. I do it with white and I do it to the parts that I think will get some light, and once I'm done with that, you will hear it back from me. Okay, the lights are done as well now, and I create another mask for that layer, which means that I now can delete the light parts that I don't want to have, because that's too much light, and I have to use the airbrush again, the smooth brush, and the black color, so everything that I paint black with, it will disappear, as you can see, in a smooth way. And I do it to the light that's too much. If I would choose white color to paint on that, the lights would reappear. Yeah. And I do it with all the parts that are not that much hit by the light. I just do, before I do that, I prepare some safe space, I would say, so that I can later remove something and then I have it smooth instead of hard. Because if I paint too much light first, when I remove the light, I can use the smooth brush. I hope that makes any sense. I have never explained to somebody before how exactly I draw. I just do it. That's why I can record my voice only afterwards, because when I draw, I don't really think, and I'm sorry that this is going so fast, like making the mask and stuff. I'm sure if you play it in slow, again, that you can see exactly what I choose. I'm just doing that quick and automatically. That's why in the last years, I never did a tutorial. This is the first time I record everything and I let people see it, because I thought I cannot really explain it, but I got asked by so many people to do tutorials that now is the time to step out of my comfort zone and do that, and at least try to explain. As I said, if you have any questions, things you don't understand, feel free to ask me. Maybe I can answer it in a written comment here, or later on in the next tutorial. I know exactly what I need to explain for people to understand it, or otherwise maybe you don't want me to speak at all, and that's okay as well. So if you are annoyed by my voice, feel free to tell me. If many people tell me, then I will do the videos without my voice and maybe put some music on that, if that is better. I'm not sure if, yeah, I think I'm now finished with the light. What I do with the light, I put it on the hard light mode because that's not too strong. Then I duplicate the layer, and I think I will choose, yes, soft light. And now I use the Gaussian bluer again. You can see you click on the wand button and then the Gaussian bluer, and that blurs the light a little bit. I like that. I like to do that with the light, and with the highlight dots it's just smoother, and yeah, I think it looks more beautiful that way. So I have two not full opacity highlight layers, and both have a layer mask, as you can see on the right. And I did the third one, and I think this one was soft light. So I just play with it. I don't use always the same. I play with the lights, I play with the shadows, and look what's good. Just now I did merge the layers. You could see the difference to the flats that it has now with the shadows. What I do now is I do vary the colors. I took the curves option, and now I play around with the curves to have some contrast, some more contrast in the picture. This is the part that I like the most. Now it comes to playing with colors and just trying, because when I start a picture, I have a kind of feeling how it will look like in the end, but most often with the colors it becomes completely different. You will see it with this one. I plan to do it like with the blue tone that I did that I saw in the movie in that scene, but this final picture will be a little bit more colorful because I like to play with colors. You see the difference now. This is after the curves. I'm still not happy with that. I think that, yes, now I duplicated the highlight in Naruto's eye, and I think I did it, yeah, Gaussian blue. I did it a little bit more smooth, then I merged that now. Let's see what I do next. I choose the outlines. I put a clipping mask on that. So on the black lines I have now a clipping mask, and I do color the outlines this way, because when I create a clipping mask on the outlines, I can only draw on the outlines, if that makes any sense. So I chose the blue from Hinata's hair, I choose the orange from Naruto's trousers, and now I give the outlines that are at the lighter parts, I give them the colors blue and orange, and even with the skin color I try here to have it a little bit more realistic, because sometimes the dark outlines, they are just too strong, and yeah, with colored outlines I feel like sometimes there is a little bit more harmony in the picture this way, and that's why I do it. But I don't do it all the time. Sometimes I leave the outlines as black as they are. Yes, now I merged it, I think. No, not yet. I just look if I like it. Maybe I reduce it. No, I did merge it. I duplicated the group to keep the layers in case I need them, and now I flatten. Okay, here it's called flatten. In Photoshop it's called merging. Flatten the group. I think the same with the moon. This was wrong. Undo and flatten the group. So I have only the moon. I will duplicate that. Then I will use the Gaussian bluer again. Yes, to make it smooth. I use a higher Gaussian bluer here because the moon is very glowy. I put that on a color mode again, and I will remove the background now. I think now I will overpaint it, because there was something wrong with that and I didn't like that. Now I do it the hard light option, but I don't think I will say, yeah, soft light, exactly. I know myself by now. Yeah, and just duplicate as many moons as I need to have the feeling of a glowing moon. I paint another, you see the layer order, right? The layer I just created was under the moon, so the moon overlaps that and I don't have any problems with that. This way I try to make it a little bit more glowy. I just paint under the moon. When I open the layers again, you can see that, and the borders a little bit more dark. I think the next thing I do is merge everything and you will see the sketch again. Curves again, okay. Okay, I increased the contrast in the background again because I like pictures with contrast. I hope you figured that out with my style. They are very colorful and full of contrast. And this is just playing, trying and playing. There is nothing right or wrong to that, to the curves. It's just, you see how I move them and I just try, and now we can see the difference. It's a little bit more colorful, but I take out some saturation. I decrease the saturation because it was too strong, and now I like the one that I created better, and merge that. Exactly, so the next thing I do is take the sketch again to have those little glowing balls, because I did the composition of them in the sketch. And now I take my drawing brush, no, I think it's a painting brush. At this point I have to figure out, because I'm not used to the English version. And it's still the German brushes, I cannot believe it. Okay, you saw it, I took the first one, I put it to the highest scale, and then I, with red, the red that I can clearly see, I paint on top of the glowing dots in the glowing particles, I don't know how to call it, yeah, that I created in the sketch that I did a composition for already. After this is done, I move the layer on top, the layer with the glowing particles. I make the other layers visible again, and then I change the brightness to 100% to make the red a white color. And now I can continue. I think I will duplicate them in a moment, or just, no, I paint more of them because I didn't like the composition completely now that I see the final picture. And it's just adding some small particles and removing some bigger ones that don't work for me. So what I do now that I'm happy with that, I duplicate the layer and I use the Gaussian bluer again. And I set the mode on soft light. So I have a soft light overlay now. Hard light, okay, I will duplicate that and change it to soft light, I'm pretty sure. Yes, so I have one on hard light and I have one on soft light. Somehow I like that combination, it works out for me every time. So let's see what I'm doing after that. Okay, I merged it. Okay, I merged the characters with the particles. I duplicated my background as well just to have it safe. And then I merged all of that with my two finger gesture on one layer. So I duplicated the rest before so I don't lose the layers in case I want to change something. And now I duplicated the entire picture as well. And now I can play with that. So I filled one layer with blue color. And now I'm just trying with the color modes, you see. I don't know them all in detail as well. And I want to see which colors. This is the most fun part for me, just playing with everything, and it's always different. And with the color modes, I'm trying what looks nice. First I oriented on the blue colors of the night in the movie and tried to find a nice saturation and colors with that. I think this one is a little bit too much. You will have much fun with that, I can promise. And it's not even the end, there comes much more to play around. So now what I love to do is put some pink color, some yellow color and some blue color. Somehow I like that combination very much for highlights, like kind of red, yellow and blue, the standard colors. I like to set some highlights with them. I just make a new layer. It's important to make a new layer for that. And yeah, just randomly put some lights and then change the color mode. This time, what do I change it for? Overlay. Yeah, see how different looks the picture now. So it's not entirely blue. And I think I will switch, I will switch because I'm not sure. Should I leave it blue or should I put some other colors to that? But it's not in the movie and I was wondering a couple of times. And you see here that I can change the color of the highlights and how different the picture looks with that. So there's infinite options with digital art, and that's why I'm such a big fan of digital art, and I did stick to digital art because you can try so many versions of your picture. And yeah, this last part, color choosing is the most fun for me. And you can see I play with all the options, and in a moment I think I will export this to Adobe Lightroom, because in Adobe Lightroom I go when I'm not entirely happy with the colors in Procreate, because Adobe Lightroom is even more advanced for the color compositions, for me, I have to say. So here we are in Adobe Lightroom now. I have to say I'm not an expert for that program, but I love to play in here. You can see, okay, I have to translate. Farbe means color. That's the thing I do right now. Temperature, then we have saturation, dynamic, and the shade of color. Tönung is, this one is the shade of color, like the, is it cool colors or is it warm colors? And with those options I play around now. I don't know how to make Adobe Lightroom into English. Maybe I have that option. Down there is the color mix. Farb mix is color mix. Then this upper slide is the color, saturation, and the light. Luminance is like the light. And now I can choose the red colors, the orange colors in the picture, and I can adjust the colors all separately. Like, I have a lot of blue in this picture, so when I'm at the blue color you will see the biggest change when I try to vary with that, and you see that I'm going white here. And yeah, try to find out what fits the picture best. I do always a lot in Lightroom, like more color, more saturation than it needs, because you will see later in a second what I do when I go back to Procreate. So I yeah, I do it to an extreme colors I do here, and it's so much fun. This is the blue that I told you, purple, and there's now a nice purple shade in Hinata's hair. I like that. I like it better than the simple blue colors I had before. Now I have it a little bit more colorful. That's kind of the character that I myself are, and I love to express that in my drawings to make them very colorful. And now I go to this is lightness, it's contrast, it's white shades, it's dark shade, black shades, and I play with those colors as well. This is all about lightning. And when I'm done with that, I export my picture to Procreate again. So I opened the Lightroom picture in Procreate and I copied it, and this is the old one, and I do paste it. You saw on the upper left hand button there was the paste option. I just did that, and now you can see it's too much color and I reduce it to 50%. This is the picture I had. You see the difference? This is the picture that I just created in Lightroom, and on under that is the one that I created in Procreate, and I reduced the Lightroom one to 50%. Then it was alright. Now I merge them and I try here with the curves again, because I can never play around enough with colors. I want to be extremely happy with that, and sometimes after a while I look at the colors and I'm like, okay, that's maybe a little bit too much, but it's just so much fun to play with the colors. And then we almost finished the picture. Let's see. Alright, I think that's it. Now I show you the sketch again. And this is basically the end of my very first tutorial. I hope it was a tutorial. I hope you could learn something out of it. As I said, feel free to ask any questions. For any feedback, I'm glad, because I don't know how your impression of that is. If I did it good, if I did it bad, but I'm very happy to improve. Thank you for watching.